Right, interesting times at the Emirates Stadium. Full time between Brazil and Senegal. Worrying signs, though, for Arsenal and Tottenham, though, ahead of the North London derby. We can cross live to Natalie Gedra now, who can bring us up to date with everything that's happened in that match there. We're just waiting to establish some communications with Natalie. So, Natalie, tell us more about these potential problems for Arsenal and Tottenham.
Yeah, let's start with the worrying news for Arsenal and for Tottenham, for Arsenal especially, because after the hour mark here at the Emirates, Gabriel Magalhães, he felt a muscular injury. It looked like he's grown, so he had to be subbed. As soon as he felt something, he already signed to the bench to get subbed, and he went straight to the dressing room. So we don't have any more updates, more details on his injury, but it didn't look good. He was limping. So he left the pitch limping, and we'll wait for more updates from the Brazilian camp. What we do know is that yesterday, when Brazil was doing their final session here at the Emirates before the game, Gabriel, he did his warm-up separately from the rest of the group because they were trying to manage his load, because he's been playing for a lot of minutes this season. So we'll wait for more updates on Gabriel, but it doesn't look good. It looks like a muscular injury, and we'll bring updates along throughout the day. And also Pape Sarr was substituted by Senegal very early in the second half. We also don't have many details on his injury, but he was subbed right very early in the second half for Nicolas Jackson. So problems for both Arsenal and Spurs. And as for Brazil, they beat Senegal 2-0 with 2 goals scored from players who play here in the Premier League. Estevão, the wonder kid from Chelsea, 18 years of age, he played brilliantly again for Brazil. He is the top scorer in the Carlo Ancelotti era. 4 goals already for Brazil, and the second goal scored by Casemiro. Casemiro is going through a striking run. He scored 3 goals and assisted twice in the past 8 matches for Manchester United, and today he scored for the national team for the first time since 2023. So these are the updates here from the Emirates Stadium. Brazil beating Senegal in a very good performance, especially in the first half, 2-0.
A title-winning team in this Man City sort of squad and team right now?
I always say it's too early after 10 games, and as much as that sounds a bit of a cop-out, I think with City it's always the same. If you can get to January, February time and you're sort of in touch, like I remember the treble season, we were in touch with Arsenal, even with Liverpool as well. If you're in touch, City are better in the second half of the season. So if you can just get in there, I mean, we're up there, 4 points off Arsenal. I think some of the looser screws are kind of coming a little bit tighter now. The likes of Núñez, O'Reilly at left back's been really good. Nico in midfield looks good. I think we're looking sharp. We've got Donnarumma in net, who's been unbelievable so far. I think Arsenal probably been the best team so far, hence, you know, why they're top of the league as well. But I think we're getting there, and we're getting there slowly. It was a bad start for us, and now we're just slowly kicking in, aren't we?
I think Arsenal favourites. I think they're the best team this season. But I agree, I think City just getting close to them. Arsenal have had the history of being close and then getting a bit nervous towards the end. So I think that City will put massive pressure on Arsenal, and I think they're more capable of winning the league.
When you've been involved in these title races over the years, you've been in front, you've probably come from behind as well. Do you think Arsenal would be extra nervous because it's City, and it's City who've actually come from behind twice and actually caught them, haven't they?
Yeah, I do. I think Haaland, as I said, Haaland's on absolute fire, isn't he? And I think just with the experience of Pep and knowing how to win the league, I think if you're an Arsenal player, you're looking behind and you think, oh, Jesus, there they are again, coming again. So I think they'll be really nervous. I think, listen, how many players of Arsenal have won the Premier League? Have you got any?
No. Have they?
Jesus.
Yeah, he's
not
even alive.
Jesus. So yeah, no, I think with City coming behind them, I think that's putting massive pressure on them.
He's just mentioned Haaland, and you just said he's on fire. You've played with unbelievable goal scorers for England and Manchester United. I said a few weeks ago, I think he's the best goal scorer we've ever seen in English football. I mean, where would you rank? Would you agree with that? Is there anyone else have missed out?
Yeah, no, I'd probably agree. I think his game this season has got better as well. I think his hold-up play has been better, his link-up play. is better, but in terms of goal scoring, he's just a machine.
I'd like to think Jamie doesn't think he's picked the wrong club anymore, because I remember in that first season you were questioning it. But like you said, I think this season compared to last season...
Well, let me answer. You've answered me a question.
I didn't think you'd want to answer it, mate.
No, I mean, when I said that, he was no matter what club Haaland goes to, he's going to score goals. It doesn't matter what club he's gone to. But I still believe, probably not so much this season, but I think Haaland, Man City could probably, or another club could get more out of him in terms... Say, you know the run he did midweek?
Yeah,
I was at Man City midweek.
Yeah.
Remember he got the ball in the halfway and he went on this run, he set Nico O'Reilly up for a chance. I think because Man City aren't as direct and play so much football, I actually think if he played for a club that was maybe a little bit more direct and got the ball into, I think he could bully defenders more.
Like the Brentford goal type.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So you can't pick the... I mean, if you play for Pep, you're going to win. And Haaland's going to score goals. But I actually, when we just call him a goal scorer, which is what he is for City, he takes his chances, unbelievable. But actually seeing him bully people, I think he could do that. A little bit like what Drogba did.
Yeah, I was just about to say it. Drogba, yeah.
I think if he played for a team, as I said, he'd get the ball in a little bit quick. I think we'd see a little bit more of that of him, him seeing as a one.
I think you don't... He's scored that many goals.
You don't need to see that.
I agree. I don't think you need to see him being what Drogba was. I think Drogba needed that for his game. I think with Haaland now, I don't think City are as possession-based team now as much as what he was. I think they do go forward a bit.
So when you're saying then you think Haaland's brought more to his game this season, do you think that's the point I'm sort of what I'm saying? You're talking about a goal.
No, I thought he was sloppy. I think he's still a bit sloppy, and technically he's not as good as some of the players are getting the ball out his feet and turning and stuff. I think that's not being his strength, but I think this season he's got a bit better at that, and he looks a bit leaner, I think, as well. I know he
loves them steaks, doesn't he? So
he's in great shape.
Raw milk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Raw milk.
He loves it.
Gareth, it's about time some of the Liverpool squad were on raw milk.
It's worth a try, isn't it? Try anything at this stage. I just think, right now, especially away from home, we look so fragile, both in terms of teams being able to score against us, but also mentally. I keep seeing things where I think it looks like they feel sorry for themselves a little bit. And, yesterday I felt like City targeted Konate with and without the ball, let Konate have the ball in terms of build-up, targeted them when they had the ball. And he's a prime example of it. I think if he makes a mistake in a game, that's it then. He's going to make more. And that's a sort of example of what I mean about this sort of mental fortitude that's sort of lacking at the moment. I think we've still obviously got a good squad. We've obviously got good players. I think we can go on a better run than we've been on. But to do a run of 4 consecutive away defeats is really worrying. And I don't know I don't know what the quick fix is, and I don't know whether the manager knows what the quick fix is.
Sorry, Gareth, are you looking more there at the manager or the playing staff?
A bit of both, really. Because if you think about the Real Madrid performance, which I thought was excellent, I thought you really saw sort of fight from the players, aggression from the players.
But then at home, you got 60,000 putting them on.
But it just wasn't there at City. City were doing that to us. You look at Vert, any time he got the ball, no matter where he was on the pitch, their players were flying into him. I think a couple of the bookings they picked up were challenges on.
Bernardo just chopped him.
Yeah, challenges on him, and that was like, we're not letting you do anything. And that's what we were doing to Real Madrid the other day. So what happens away from? I know it's a huge thing, home advantage, obviously. But what happens to them mentally away from home right now? Because it's not right. And if it's not right, we'll make us hard to beat then. Do you know what I mean? And go from that basis. And we just feel too open. Teams are picking us off. I think it's 17 goals conceded now in 11 games. That's not close to something that's going to get you the title. What have Arsenal conceded? 5 or something?
Yeah, about that.
To be hard to beat, though, you need every player to work.
Yeah.
And I just think this season teams have targeted down the right. Salah doesn't run back as much as... I know he hasn't always done it, but I think there's an obvious concern for Liverpool down there because he's not getting back and not having the consistency of a right-back playing every game. Is it three right-backs?
Yeah.
They've played the season. Thomas Ligo there to fill in as well. I think teams are targeting... Well, Cucurella come out after the Chelsea game and said they targeted down our side. And I think City done it yesterday and I felt sorry for Bradley yesterday. He needed help, and Gravenberg's doing as much as he can to get across and help him, but then there's spaces in the middle.
Then he's dragged out, yeah.
So I just think and Salah actually last season against City was probably the hardest I've ever seen him work. He got back and he did defend. But this season, yesterday he didn't. And then there's big gaps and there's holes, and that's where you look open. Konate then has to go out as well. I think he has been poor, Konate, but he's out and Gravenberg's dropping in. And that's where we've seen the second goal yesterday come from. So
No, you're right, Wayne.
The manager has to show authority on that.
Well, I think
Salah has to be responsible and say, listen, and this part where I was saying with Van Dijk as captain as well, he should be telling Salah, you can get him back in.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying to be fair, Sab, but I think it is a tactical thing in that it worked last season. But as you said, if you're not scoring the goals at one end and you're leaving your team exposed at the other, you're not basically getting nothing from this tactical ploy of allowing Mo Salah just to stay up top. So he's either got to come back or you've got to play somewhere else. And that's why I said a few weeks ago, the days of Mo Salah starting every week, especially away from home, have to stop. Yeah. But it probably would have been a very brave man not to play him at Manchester City yesterday on the back of what happened midweek. But I think when I always look more at the players, than a manager. But I do think Liverpool's sort of, the people buying the players and the manager, they've tried to take a team of last season that won the league, but in Slot's eyes, he wanted it to be more sexy, more goals, more entertaining. Yeah. He's always speaking about Paris Saint-Germain. He loves Pep. You heard him speak about Pep before the game. He's just his heroes, Pep. So he's trying to move that team here to more football and more goals, and the league's moved that way.
Yeah.
So the league's gone powerful, set pieces, long throws, almost like a throwback to the 2000s or dealing. And Liverpool have been left behind, and they've almost just got it wrong in terms of where the game's going. And I think that's been a big problem for them. But Gareth, I wanted to ask you about Wirtz. Now, I was worried about Wirtz early on, because he wasn't amazing, but I also think when you pay that much money for someone, I just want to see a few glimpses of something that I think, oh, okay, I know he's not the Bayer Leverkusen version yet. That will come in a few months when he gets with the speed, but I can see little things. That was early on. I've seen a few little things, the back heel at Chelsea. Yeah. He played well against Real Madrid. But my worry about Wirtz is that when people are saying, he's got to get used to his teammates and stuff like that, he's actually played well in Europe. But it's a different game to the Premier League. So he's played really well, I think away from home, was it Frankfurt? Played really well against Real Madrid at home. But he's found it really tough in the Premier League, and I worry about him sort of going forward. I get it's early days, but I need to see something to keep me going that this,
will work. Varane for us. When we bought Sebastian Varane, he was, I think, twice the player Wirtz is, really. He was great in Europe, but couldn't deal with the physicality.
How was he twice the player Wirtz was?
Seba Varane. He's a much better player than...
Why?
Is that not obvious?
Why?
Juan Sebastian Varane. He's not better than Wirtz.
Man United do not.
No, but I mean, in terms of his talent and his ability, he's twice the player Florian Wirtz is. And he struggled in the Premier League because of the physicality and stuff. And I think that's what he's dealing with. That's why he's good in Europe, because there's a bit more space and everything. But
I like Wirtz coming off the left, what he's done in the last couple of... I know he hasn't scored, but he's created a good number of chances, and which his teammates haven't taken, and good chances as well. So I think he'll be all right. I do. And players just take time to settle in. To go from Leverkusen to Liverpool, it's a big jump.
No.
Liverpool's a massive club, and I just think it's not going well for the whole group at Liverpool at the minute. And when that happens, and you're a new player and the money they've spent, Isak very similar as well, and there's going to be questions. But I think he'll be all right.
I agree with the thing on the left, because I've been thinking about how he can get in the team. He has to try and make it work. It's not like he doesn't play. But when you think of the Premier League, there's always at least 6 players in the middle of the pitch, sometimes 8, with full-backs coming in, and it's fast, and it's quick, and it's powerful. And I actually think just being on the left, there's a little bit more space, a little pocket. I think of the Man City players of like David Silva, Bernardo Silva, those type of players, even though they're really creative, they didn't play in the number 10 position so much. It's more a little bit wide where the space is. But I agree with you on that. The thing about the chances, I keep seeing he's top of the chances. So I asked someone at Sky, because the stats, because I'm thinking when I'm watching the game, I'm not actually seeing those chances. A chance is when you pass the ball to someone and they have a shot. So that shot can be from outside the box. That shot can be from like... Do you know what I mean? What I'm saying? I get the Salah one at Chelsea.
Galatasaray away, I think it was Ekitike clean through 1v1.
Yeah.
He gives Soboslai
It was another European game.
He gives Soboslai a chance against Real Madrid. And I know you're saying it's European games, but still, he just needs a goal. He needs a goal and assist and to get confidence. And as a forward, when your confidence is low, it's not a good place to be.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on sort of Liverpool going forward?
You just got to dig in, haven't they? I mean, you know, with Vert, you know, I found it incredibly frustrating seeing him in that sort of like false nine position later on in the game when we're trying to chase it. It just didn't work for me. We had no threat. And, you know, there were a couple of balls flashed across the face and there's no one there. I mean, what I look at as a sort of little bit of a way back is 3 of the next 4 are at home. So that's good. Alisson's in goal or supposed to be for the next game at home against Nottingham Forest. I think that'll make a big difference. Mamardashvili's done all right, saves a pen yesterday, but you notice the difference. You know, the distribution, just the presence of Alisson. I think that will help. And I think it'll help, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we start to eventually see the best of Isak as well. He was obviously on the bench yesterday, not deemed fit enough to come on. Hopefully by Forest and by that run of games I'm talking about, we start to get something out of him as well. So that's what I'm hopeful of. But you still got I think we still got to see something from them away from home. The next away, I think, is West Ham. You should be doing something there.
Gareth, I mentioned at the start when I mentioned you had a little bite up, the man on your right there from Manchester. You had another little bite on social media, another man from Manchester, Roy Keane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about his comments around Liverpool supporters and the treatment of Trent.
Yeah.
You're a big Liverpool supporter.
Yeah,
Case for the defence?
Yeah, I mean, he said, didn't he, that we needed to sort of look at ourselves. I don't think that's the case. I think that game, the atmosphere at Anfield was everything I wanted it to be. It was aggressive, it was good, we were right behind our team, we were right against their team. We booed every Real Madrid player, not just Trent, but obviously special exception was kept for him. And I just think, what I said when it came back to that comment from Roy Keane was, from our point of view, Trent Alexander-Arnold led us up the garden path. You know, he didn't say anything on the speculation. I remember sort of last December, I think it was, it came out, it's done. He's definitely going. And then he's on the pitch for Liverpool Football Club doing this.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you how it was interpreted at the time. Fans took it to mean, he might stay, you know. He's saying the press is talking bollocks and he might stay at Liverpool. So by doing that, he was leading us up the garden path, because we know that's for the case, because he turns up in Madrid speaking Spanish, and so it was obviously, you know, a long-term thing that he was going
look good though, you know.
So I think this idea that we have to sort of, you know, treat him with reverence and roll out the red carpet, absolutely not. I mean, one of my worst ever times as a Liverpool fan was under Brendan Rodgers. We played Real Madrid at home, and we did roll out the red carpet, and I remember like seeing people taking pictures of Ronaldo and stuff, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, if you're at Anfield, you're meant to be supporting Liverpool. You're meant to be getting behind our boys and getting stuck into them, not taking pictures of them.
Well, even I was getting asked for pictures at Anfield, didn't I?
Was you, yeah?
Liverpool fans.
What's going on with football? I might just jib it. I just go and watch Marine.
I think because it's a local lad, he's obviously from West Derby, and I think that's why it hurt Liverpool fans, and I get it. I get it, but then we had Ronaldo, who we all knew was going to Real Madrid at the end of the season, so we knew that Nemanja Vidic was going to Inter Milan. We knew that in January, but I think just because it's the fact that it's a local lad, and for any team seeing local lads come through and be successful is the best feeling in the world, isn't it? So I don't blame him for going to Madrid, but I think there should have been some communication at some point.
It used to come to me then, you're talking about Man United players, but obviously you moved on from Everton.
Yeah.
And the Everton supporters at that time are obviously going nuts when you're a young lad. But do you think it's a little bit similar in that they wouldn't have reacted? Their reaction was because you were a local lad, you were one of theirs. Yeah. That's why Gareth reacts the way, or Liverpool supposed to do with Trent, because you're one of ours. You're not moving to Madrid and you're just you know, Liverpool's a club that you move on. So that's, I think...
I think obviously me going to Man United is a bit different as well, being a Scouser, but listen, you get booed. When I went back to Goodison, the fans booing me and whatever, and you've got to get on with it. Does it hurt? It hurts. It's the club I love. It's the club my whole family support, and so it hurts from that point of view. But at the end of the day, listen, it's football, and I think your players move on, players stay, and in time, I'm sure when Trent comes back, in time the fans will remember what he's done and how successful he's been to the club. But it's still, at the minute, it's still quite raw. So I was expecting him to get booed. I think during the game, to do what you want to put him off. That's fine. I just think at the end it might be nice if he's gone and just had a little clap round and maybe he gets a few claps. But it's football. You can't take it too hard.
But you were at the Everton game with your lads, weren't you, the other day? So in 20 years' time, Trent, would he be allowed to post a picture in the director's box in 20 years' time and a Liverpool win, get in?
Well, I mean, you know, Torres left, didn't he? And we all hated the way he went from Liverpool. We all hated the fact that he went to Chelsea and he wasn't liked. And the first time Liverpool played Chelsea after that, we all got stuck into him. I think I got elbowed him in the face and we were all made up, you know, and all that kind of stuff. He came back, didn't he, for one of those legend charity games, and he got a good reception, and I liked that because that's what you're talking about. I think where there's been enough time. And he was a great player for us. We loved watching him. We felt we had a connection with him. We had a great song for him, all the rest of it. And when he came back and he got that reception after some time had passed, I felt like that was the right thing. And so maybe one day, you know, maybe we will welcome Trent back. But raw is the word from Rooney there, spot on.
But I think the other thing as well is, I think he just needs to speak to his brother as well. Tell his brother to calm down.
Yeah, spot on.
Because that's not helping.
Which one?
I don't know which one. I don't know. but things like that, fancy that, and that does.
There's been some stuff on socials, hasn't there, over time, which hasn't been the best. It's fair to say.
Wayne, you were at Anfield. I just want to mention it now. Obviously, we made a joke about the Van Dijk situation, but you've been a player. You know, a pundit. You've got to give your opinion. How did you feel about Van Dijk coming over and how it went about? Because
I was happy he come over because I think obviously my job now is to give my opinions, and I like to think I try and be straight and honest with my opinions on what I feel and what I see. And I think I'm right. And I said on my podcast the other day, the one thing where maybe I went a bit too strong is when I said he's maybe down tools since he signs a new contract, and that's a big statement to say. So I said on that mission, maybe I was wrong on that, but I think from performance level, from what we've seen, Van Dijk, I don't think he's been at the level he has this season. And I questioned, I said, I'm sure as captain, he'd be speaking to players, he'd be taking the team out for food or whatever, and which he said he has done. So clearly, if he's felt he's done that, he's had to do that, then there's something not right. And listen, as champions, you can't lose 4 games in a row. If you lose 1 game, there's questions. If you lose 4 games in a row, then there's something not right. So I think getting involved too much in everything I'm hearing from, and even Arne Slot said the outside noise, and okay, that's what our job to do is to focus on your game. Don't focus on, because as a younger player, be looking at Van Dijk and how he reacts to this and how's that going to help them. So I just think you have to just get on with your game and speak internally, but you almost have to come together.
I liked it. I thought it was good television. I think punditry has blew up, hasn't it, over the last sort of 10 years or so. And probably even when we were playing, yes, there was pundits, but it does feel like it's just on a completely different level now. Shows like this, you know, social media. And I actually think me and you would have probably done what Van Dijk did as well. I think I would have.
You did
100% I would have.
You did worse on the radio, didn't you?
Yeah, I was the first. I was the pioneer.
I'm not as touchy as him, but
but I wasn't as good as you.
If you look at what you're saying, mate, I had 100 times worse than what I said about Van Dijk, both on the pitch, off the pitch. So that's what I'm saying. Of course, and there's people who talk and you take someone's opinion a bit more serious than other people, but go and do your talking on the pitch. That's all you need to do. I've praised Van Dijk I don't know how many times about his performances and how good he's been, but if you're champions and you're the captain of the Premier League champions, and they're not performing as well, and you know, I'm saying about. I know if I was on the pitch and if we used to do it with Ronaldo, where Ronaldo wouldn't defend as much, and we all work a bit harder, but if it's a tough game and you're playing against the top team, you screen out and to get back in and help out. And that's what I'm saying about leadership. That's you need to understand what game you're in, what's the importance of the game and stuff, and make sure if you're playing against a tough team, that's it. But you know, I've got criticised, you know, for years, still do now.
But what I'm saying is, I think when you've been a player and then you become a pundit, players sometimes take it personally, and I totally get it, because you do. It's just natural, it's human nature. But I thought it was good TV, and I'd probably like to see more of it in the
I was
future.
pleased. I was pleased to come over here.
Yeah.
But then I just think...
No, what I mean is, to be fair to him, and what I would say is, if Van Dijk is getting, you know, upset about what you said, I don't think there's a footballer anywhere in the world in the last 10 years had more praise than Virgil van Dijk. No, and deservedly so. He's been amazing, but he's had very little criticism, if any. But I don't think he sort of was disrespectful to you. I think it was just a nice But I think it'd be actually good in the future, more players actually get involved and chat about different things, or, you know, talk about the game, be more tactical.
When Arne Slot came over, I was talking to him about me and Arne Slot with a Calvin Harris together, and I beat her. And,
that's maybe where Liverpool's problem started.
So
Arne Slot's pass.
I was doing the detective work, but no, we were talking about that, and then Gary Logan had to cut in and say, we're on air.
Interview, by the way, with ESPN's Rodra. Ned, I'm going to start with you. What did you make of what Raya had to say? Have Sunderland established a blueprint for what to do against Arsenal?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think there is an element of physicality when you play against Arsenal, which you do have to sort of reach, but then also you have to take your moments. And I think for Sunderland themselves, the way that they start the season doing so well in the league, the belief that they have with their fans in the stadium as well, and in the game itself, they're just super competitive. I think David Raya made the point, you know, they've come up from the Championship and so on. But if you look at most of that team, most of them weren't in the campaign last season from the Championship, so it's just new to them. But this is how they're going to play. They're going to go toe-to-toe with absolutely anybody. They're not going to try and outpass you. You know, they're not necessarily just going to shell it long all the time. But you know that if you're going to be getting points from them, you're going to have to earn the right to do that. And I think Arsenal basically felt that as of other teams in recent weeks. You know, this is a Sunderland team that beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge not too long ago as well. But I think to sort of add on to what he was saying, you know, that defensive side of things for Arsenal, I think that love for defending. Once upon a time in sort of my career, you'd hear that in Italy when you'd see goalkeepers high-fiving defenders when they make a tackle and so on. But, you know, for those guys, that's how they do it. They're good defenders individually, and they're committed to defending as a collective, and that is from front to back. And that's what makes Arsenal really soft. So in some ways, it was a surprise to see them concede 2 goals away at Sunderland, not least of all because the 2 goals essentially were quite simple. There's somebody missing an assignment from the throw-in, so Dan Ballard basically pushes his way through and scores. And then for the second goal, is it the goalkeeper's ball? Is it the defender's ball? No, it's Brian Broby's ball because he's committed and thrown himself at it. And those are the sort of things which we don't really see Arsenal give up very often. So, yeah, it's a nice reminder for them, but they're still a very, very strong defensive unit.
Yeah, he threw himself at it, and the man doing the interview wasn't quite as committed, was he, the goalkeeper? if we're being honest about it,
right.
He came out a little hesitant because he knew there was going to be physical contact. Had he really thrown himself out there and outstretched his arms to punch it, he may have just have got there before the attacker and put it in the back of the net. Look, is this ESPN FC finding the crack in the Arsenal? Notice how I said that as if it's not me. Is this the FC way of finding the crack in Arsenal? This is how you get...
Yeah.
Arsenal can be physical against every team. We've talked about it. This is part of their game that they are equipped to deal with, or should be. They have some of the biggest, most physical players in the Premier League. Here's the news for you. If you're the bulk of the Premier League teams and you try and go toe-to-toe with Arsenal in a game of football, you're probably going to lose, or you're going to come out second best. So you have to find a different way. Long balls, throw-ins, getting it forward quicker, squeezing them in, crosses into the box, being a bit more physical. You're going to have to use all of that, because if you try and take them on in a head-to-head game, they're going to get the better of you. So Sunderland have been very good at that. They've been very good when they've came up to the Premier League about understanding what works for them. The Chelsea game was a classic example. They sat in for long periods of the game and defended stoutly and got the result. So yeah, this is just, one for Arsenal that got away. But if you think you can just roll this Arsenal team over, and that's their weak point, I would disagree with that.
Right, that is the problem, isn't it, Gab? If this is the blueprint to get the better of this Arsenal defence, how many other teams in the Premier League can play this way? Fulham aren't playing this way.
No, look, I mean, this was the right way for Sunderland to approach it. But let's not get carried away here. Those goals featured two, I think, massive individual errors from two players who happen to have been two of Arsenal's best players this season, Declan Rice and Gabriel. If you want to give some blame to Raya as well, sure. But Declan Rice misjudges the flight of the ball in the first one, and Gabriel gets bullied by Brian Brobby, one of the few players who probably is heavier than he is. These guys don't make many mistakes. Occasionally, even the very best make individual errors. It happened, move on. If these guys make individual errors like this next week too, and the week after, sure, then we can talk about maybe things not working in the system, or we can talk about blueprints that work against them. But, somebody slipping on a banana peel does not make you a genius, put it that way.
Yeah. All right, finally, it's International Week, so we've had a bunch of interviews, as you might have noticed. But only one player addressed a subject very dear to your heart, Craig, and that was Matty Cash, who was talking to the football reporters James Ollie and Rob Dawson. This is what he had to say.
Mikel Arteta's contradictory comments dismissed after Everton versus Arsenal fixture change. Mikel Arteta has faced criticism from sections of the Arsenal fanbase after the Premier League granted the club's request to move their away fixture against Everton forward by 1 day. However, a closer look at Arteta's statements shows there was no real contradiction in his words, only a misunderstanding of priorities. The change means Arsenal will now face Everton on December 20th, rather than on Sunday the 21st, allowing the Gunners an extra day of rest before their Carabao Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace. From the club's perspective, it's a sensible move to protect player welfare and performance levels during a congested period. Yet for many supporters, the news came as an inconvenience, and in some cases, a financial burden. Fans who had already booked non-refundable travel and accommodation for the original date could now be out of pocket. In response, Arsenal announced that they would provide coach travel to Liverpool for £10 return, but the gesture didn't stop frustration from spilling over on social media. An Arsenal fixture news account on X, formerly Twitter, at AFC Fixture News, summed up the mood. The away match against Everton has been moved to Saturday, December 20th at 8 p.m. thanks to at Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, and at Sky Sports PL. The last train from Liverpool to London departs at 8:12 p.m. Football for the fans. Replies to the post, from an account with over 40,000 followers, were divided. Some supporters even accused Arteta of contradicting earlier comments where he seemed to emphasize the importance of fan welfare. But is that really the case? Having attended the press conferences where Arteta was asked about the scheduling issues before and after the Crystal Palace quarter-final was announced, it becomes clear his comments were taken out of context. Following Arsenal's win over Brighton in the Carabao Cup fourth round, Arteta was asked whether he feared fixture congestion could become a problem. He responded, "I hope not. If we take care of the well-being of both players and our supporters, we should never get to that point. That's our most important value. We have the best league in the world, and we can't lose that by ignoring what makes it special. If we respect that, I'm sure everything will be fine." This was the first time Arteta mentioned both players and supporters together in this specific context, placing them in the same sentence, not necessarily in the same order of importance. Later, when Arsenal were travelling to Prague for their Europa League win over Slavia, the December 23rd date for the Palace match was confirmed. Asked about the potential scheduling clash, Arteta, visibly serious, said, "Hopefully they move the Premier League game, because it doesn't make any sense to play until that late in December. I'm sure they'll make the right decision." When pressed again about the long-term impact of playing 2 matches in 3 days, he clarified his stance. "As I said before, I'm confident the league will apply the right principles, to prioritize the players first, then the supporters, and to make sure things remain fair for all clubs." In other words, Arteta's position has been consistent. His hierarchy, players first, then fans, reflects the practical realities of management. From a sporting point of view, that's not unreasonable. His job, ultimately, is to give Arsenal the best chance of winning matches, and playing 2 high-intensity games within 72 hours would compromise that goal while increasing injury risks. That said, the disruption to fans is real and shouldn't be dismissed. Arsenal have tried to mitigate the damage, offering affordable coach travel to Merseyside. It's not an afterthought. The club has made similar efforts before. For instance, earlier this season they organized a chartered train service for the trip to Manchester. The pilot program was later cancelled due to low uptake, but supporters were refunded, and coach travel was again arranged at less than half the train fare. Still, some pointed to restrictions on alcohol consumption on those buses as a reason for the lack of enthusiasm among travelers, a small but telling example of the balancing act clubs face between fan experience and logistical responsibility. As someone traveling to Liverpool on the new date to cover the match, it's easy to empathize with supporters' frustration. Plans are disrupted, and expenses add up. Yet, from a footballing standpoint, it's equally clear why the adjustment was necessary. In the end, the accusation that Arteta betrayed his words doesn't hold up. His comments were consistent with his role, a manager whose first duty is to protect his players and the team's ability to compete. While supporters deserve respect and consideration, ensuring player welfare, and by extension, the club's chances of success, inevitably comes first. The debate highlights a broader tension that runs through modern football, the struggle to balance fan experience with the relentless demands of the sporting calendar. For Arteta, it's not about choosing one over the other, but about finding a way to keep both sides moving in the same direction. The scheduling change has sparked broader discussions about fixture congestion and the growing disconnect between football authorities and match-going supporters. While the Premier League's decision ultimately favored Arsenal's sporting interests, it reignited long-standing frustrations among fans who feel that television broadcasters, rather than clubs or supporters, dictate the modern football calendar. Several supporter groups voiced their disapproval following the announcement. The Football Supporters Association, FSA, released a statement calling for greater transparency in fixture scheduling, emphasizing the financial and logistical strain late changes impose on fans. Once again, supporters are being treated as an afterthought, the statement read. When games are moved at short notice for broadcast or scheduling purposes, fans are left out of pocket. This has to change. These concerns have grown louder in recent years as fixture lists become increasingly congested, with Premier League clubs competing in multiple domestic and international competitions. December, in particular, is notorious for its relentless schedule, and managers have repeatedly warned that player fatigue and injuries are becoming inevitable outcomes of such intensity. Arteta's comments, prioritizing player welfare first, then fans, reflect a reality shared by many top-flight managers. Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and Erik ten Hag have all voiced similar frustrations about scheduling in recent months. Guardiola, after Manchester City's December fixtures were adjusted for television, remarked that the players are not machines, echoing the same sentiment that underpins Arteta's reasoning. Yet, despite the alignment among managers, fans often find themselves caught in the middle. They shoulder the financial and emotional burden of fixture changes while being told those changes are made in the name of fairness or player protection. In practice, those decisions often serve commercial partners first, particularly broadcasters who push for prime-time slots to maximize viewership. From Arsenal's perspective, the fixture change is undeniably beneficial. Playing Everton on the 20th instead of the 21st gives Arteta's side 2 full days of rest before the Carabao Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace, an important fixture as the Gunners continue their pursuit of silverware on multiple fronts. It also reduces the risk of injuries at a time when the squad has been stretched thin by European and domestic commitments. Internally, sources close to the club maintain that the request for a schedule adjustment was made solely based on player welfare and sporting integrity, not with disregard for supporters. Arsenal's communication staff are said to have worked closely with fan liaison officers to ensure alternative travel options were available, though they acknowledge that such measures can never fully compensate for the inconvenience caused. Meanwhile, the Premier League defended its decision, citing the need to maintain competitive balance across the fixture list. A league spokesperson explained that changes of this nature are reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and that input from clubs, broadcasters, and local authorities is taken into account. However, critics argue that such explanations have become formulaic, offering little real comfort to fans who consistently bear the consequences of late scheduling shifts. The ripple effects of this incident extend beyond Arsenal. Supporter groups from other clubs have pointed to it as yet another example of how fan priorities are sidelined in the modern game. There are renewed calls for an independent review of fixture planning and for a minimum notice period before changes are approved, proposals that have circulated for years but never gained traction. For Arteta, however, the matter seems settled. His focus remains on maintaining squad fitness and momentum heading into a decisive period of the season. While the debate over priorities will continue, his stance, that the health and performance of players must come first, reflects a pragmatic, if unpopular, truth in modern football. In the end, the controversy around Arsenal's fixture change underscores a growing divide between the business of football and the experience of football. Managers like Arteta operate in a results-driven environment where every decision is judged by points and trophies. Fans, on the other hand, live the consequences of those decisions, in time, travel, and loyalty. The real challenge for English football now lies in bridging that gap, ensuring that the pursuit of success on the pitch doesn't come at the expense of the very people who fill the stands.